tonight because we've got a special celebration going on. Um, Let me get my screen share running here. That's the bunch of us sitting here in the room. And it's our 6th anniversary, everybody. That means it's been 6 years since we started this whole affair. When June 7th, 2014, Adam came on and said, "Hey, we're going to do this astro imaging channel," and he did a great job, got us all started, and he's still with us. We still communicate with him regularly because things change, and he's got a lot of the original sign-ons and things like that. In the 6 years, we've managed to put out 295 live videos, and there's a couple of places you can find those videos. One, of course, is at theastroimagingchannel.org under the past shows area when you go to the website there. And you'll find we try to keep this updated, putting in all of the shows as we do them. It's not automatic anymore, so we don't necessarily get it done right, but you can find most of the recent shows here. You can also just go straight to our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is listed at youtube.com, the Astro Imaging channel. And you can find all of our past shows sitting there. There are about 295 of them. We've got to do something about the fact that there are just so many shows out there, such a rich trove of resources. And it's hard to find which particular show you want to watch. You can Google, your favorite topic and stuff, the Astro Imaging channel, Pix Insight or something like that, and it'll help, but we've got to do something about that. And we are going to do something about it sometime in the near future, we keep saying. Last year, during the 5th anniversary, we did an anniversary show, and at the time, YouTube could give us certain graphics, and they were kind of cool graphics. And by that time, we were at 19 years and 248 days worth of people watching. That's how long people have spent watching. Well, this chart is no longer available, but I tried to replicate it in some ways. We are now up to 12,884,946 minutes watched as of yesterday. And that's 214,000 hours, or 24 years and 188 days that eyeballs have been pointed at the Astro Imaging channel. And if you consider that everybody's got 2 eyeballs, that's like almost 50 years of eyeball watching. We've had 863,726 different people look at the show. And I want to point out this little spike right here. See that spike? See that spike? That's tonight's presenter. Richard is back. So he's going to come back and maybe spike us again. We'll see. Our most successful shows, the ones that are watched most often, are the ones that are linked from a website, from somebody who produces a product, like Backyard EOS and the guys who wrote PhD2 Guiding, and Polemaster and Sequence Generator Pro when Ken and Jared were on here. Those are the most popular programs. They're the most popular programs, for one thing, because they're generally pretty old. They've been around for a long time, so people have had more chances to watch them. But also because they've got links from their own website as part of their support for their users. They've got a link to the YouTube channel. But we're also very proud of the fact that we have produced a number, like Adam produced Selecting the Telescope for Astrophotography, and that's right up there as our 3rd most popular show. Josh has gotten one, and we all got together and pointed out some mounts for astro imaging years ago, and that's still in the top 10 of our most popular shows. There are some other statistics out there. This one is abysmal. Gender. It's all a bunch of stinky old guys, except for Molly. Maybe is that Molly right there, and Linda. And we need more equity in this, guys. So do what we can. Particularly, I'd like to see more women presenters. So if you're a woman out there, Linda, you haven't, and a few others, I'm sure Please, we would love to have you back, and we've got to spread the wealth around there. Oops, where'd I go? I went the wrong way. That's the one I wanted. Uh, I am not. I am actually surprised by this one about gender. Um, I thought we were all old farts watching this thing, and apparently we're not. We've got a pretty even distribution across any place from 34 on up. We've got a lot of different members watching from all age groups, and I was a little surprised by that. I was also a little surprised by, like a little more than half of our viewers are from the United States, but there are um, people from all over the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, English speakers. Yeah, we're pretty much dominant, although they aren't quite as English speaking as we would like sometimes. We were having a discussion about that during the warm up about how to pronounce certain things. Um, and then other countries, there are 85 countries total, all the way down to Tanzania, which is in the last of the list there. And so we've got people from all over watching our shows. Here's an interesting metric that I thought that you might get into. This is 2 years from 16 to 18, 2016 to 2018. And you'll notice most of that time, the people who were watching us were not subscribed to the channel. However, we've made an effort to get people subscribed, and you can see that the green now, the people who are subscribed, we've got more people who are subscribed watching the channel. And that gives us more ability to reach out to more people. It gives us more facilities on um, YouTube. When we get to 10,000 on YouTube, I will be very happy because we have even more ability to do research as to who we're reaching, and we've got more ways to uh, show people things and things like that. So that would be cool. But we are still 1,200 short. As you can see, during the first year, we got about 1,100 some. And then we kind of hit a slack after a little while where we started going downhill. Now we're back up. I would strongly suggest that everybody gets on the old button and subscribe to this YouTube channel. You get notices that we're going to be having a show. You get told who's going to be on the show and things like that. And it would really help if you would subscribe to the channel. There have been changes, particularly in the last year when Tolga and Eric and I and Molly and Terry basically stepped in to make sure that we could continue having the Astro Imaging channel. We knew we needed to do certain things. We needed to incorporate, we needed to get our finances straight, because without that, we wouldn't be able to go on. The Astro Imaging channel was too dependent upon one person. And if that one person changed his mind or something like that, it couldn't go on. So we've made some changes for that. We've also made some real had some real emphasis on changing our scheduling, um, building up spare presentations for when bad things happen and somebody can't be here. And we want to talk to you also about the comments on YouTube, which came as a result of changing some software. So we'll look at those things. First off, we are now the astroimagingchannel.org. We are a public corporation, a nonprofit public benefit corporation. We are a nonprofit, and our purpose is to educate the public about astronomical imaging. This means that even if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, and I didn't get hit by a bus, but my pretty red truck did get run into by a little black Nissan, whatever, Sentra or something like that, and it's got an owie and they totaled it, and I'm really mad about that. But that's not about me. If I get hit by a bus, the Astro Imaging channel can go on because it's no longer a person, it's a corporation. A corporation has to pay for itself. There are hundreds of dollars worth of fees that we have to pay in order to keep this thing on the air, buy storage space, just have a URL. All these things start adding up after a while. There's a couple of ways you can help defray that expenses. One, I think most of you are probably watching on YouTube, and you can see the comments over here. Down at the bottom, there's a little dollar sign. You can click on that and make a donation. Or over on the other side, underneath the main picture, there's a little link so that you can donate to the Astro Imaging channel. we're not NPR. We aren't going to have a big uh, telethon to make sure that everybody pays up and stuff like pledge drive. We're not going to do that kind of stuff, but we do appreciate it if you make some contributions. So hit that button every once in a while, and hey, be a nice anniversary present. Somebody's got to pay for this stuff. We have some real good scheduling going on. I'm really proud of the way we've got scheduling. As you can see, we are sometimes a month or 2 months ahead with people coming in to show. There was a time there where we were doing open sessions and not sure who was going to be presenting and things like that. This is partially because Tolga has been working very hard on this. Eric's been working very hard on this. Um, we're contacting people to be ready to, we're asking them real hard to be presenters. We've been asking you real hard to be presenters. The people who are watching real now, believe me, I know Tolga and I know Eric, I know Terry, I know Molly. These guys are not geniuses. I know I'm not. We're just regular people. We do the best we can.
Yeah.
Okay, back discipline. Okay. They're just regular people and they know how to figure out a PowerPoint and they'll do it. And we've had a few people recently step up and do that. And we really would appreciate it if you take your part. Some people say, well, I don't really know enough. Hey, this is the internet. You don't really have to know stuff. Okay, that probably wasn't fair, but you do have to have the right spirit. Some of our most popular shows have been people telling us they're starting out stories, how they started out, how they made their mistakes, how they can do things cheaper, how they can do things more effectively, all that kind of stuff. And we really suggest that you take advantage of the opportunity to spread the wealth. I belong to a club, the Riverside Astronomical Society, and our motto in Southern California is bringing the joys of astronomy to Southern California. That's our motto. We've been doing it for 60 some years. And that's what the Astro Imaging channel is about too. We want your help in doing that kind of stuff. One of the things that we've done is we've got a place where you can contact us. This is from our web page that you saw before. And if you hit the contact button, you can fill out your name, your email. I didn't put my email up, although I'm busy enough to get a hold of here. And it said, I'd like to do a presentation about demonstrating StarNet and PixInsight. That's fine. We'll talk to you, vet you a little bit because we want to be proud of the show. But yeah, you can do it. You can do it. So just submit a volunteer. That's how we got Agapios. That's how we got the guys in the last couple of weeks doing the Comet demonstrations and things like that. So please be part of that. Okay, we need your help. Also, we've been splitting the responsibilities a little more. By that I mean we've had to change software a couple of times now, and it's a little bit of bigger operation than it used to be. For a while, Tolga was taken up completely with just being the director on the show. Now Molly or Tolga can carry on with the show. I used to be the MC because nobody else would do it. And we've gotten to the point where Eric will step in and be the MC. And I'm sure now any of the four of us for sure could do that. And by the way, if you want to be the fifth of us or the sixth or the seventh of us, just tell us. I mean, we won't necessarily let you in because we do have some business to conduct and some stuff like that. But we need to spread the wealth here. We need some people who are technically qualified to play with this stuff, who have some energy, who have some people that are willing to make contacts. Believe me, it's kind of like dating in high school. You ask a lot of people and sometimes you get turned down, but you keep asking and you eventually produce a pretty good show for the people on the Astro Imaging channel. One of the things we've made sure we did is that each of the four of us, Terry, Eric, does that make five? Oh, anyway, me, Tolga, and who did I get? Terry, Molly. We each have what we call a presentation in our back pocket. And if somebody doesn't show up, we know like it's going to be Molly's turn next. If somebody calls us at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday and says, hey, I can't make it today, then Molly's going to step in and do her show about something. I forget what it was. And then it's going to be my turn to do it after that. But in doing that, we've been able to avoid doing the open sessions and some other things that weren't getting us much of an audience response. Finally, let's talk about the comments on YouTube. I read the comments, and you know what? We're not just an astro imaging channel like where we just dispense information about astro imaging. We are, for many of you folks, a place to come and visit. You talk about the weather, you talk about your own imaging projects, you talk about all of this, and I'm really happy with that. I'm glad we can do that. Yeah, it sometimes gets confusing when we're looking for questions that you wanted to ask the presenter and you're talking about whatever it is you're talking about. But hey, that's life. Okay, so continue to do that. This was one of the changes we made over the past year, and it's one of the things that complicated our lives because now we need more coordination between the MC and Eric does a lot of this work. He screens the comments and then gets them to the presenter. But continue to use those YouTube comments. One of the things, though, one of the things I've noticed, and I don't think it's here, I don't think that slide's here. Anyway, one of the things I've noticed is that if you are watching one of our shows a week later or 2 weeks later, and you make a comment down below, I don't think anybody answers the comment. I don't know if any of our organizational group, Molly and me and Tolga and Eric and Terry, I don't know if any of us go back and read those comments and actually respond to them. You may get a response, you may not. It's important that you ask them here. And we always try to get the presenter to give their contact information so that you can contact them directly. Don't try to do it through us. But if you need to, and if you really have a question about the presentation, you can send us a message on contact@theastroimagingchannel.com, that screen I showed you a little while earlier. And you can ask us, hey, get me in touch with so-and-so because I got a question about such and such. Okay, so we can do that. That's our comments on YouTube. At any rate, it's been 24 years worth of eyeballs looking at us. It's our 6th anniversary. And oh, here's that slide I was looking for with the comments, but we can skip that. We've got 295 live videos, but the most important is the one tonight, and the spike is back. By spike, I mean the guy that created, see this, everything's kind of going on copacetic, and then boom, that's Richard Wright right there, okay? That's the kind of audience he brings us. And I could go on and on talking about Mr. Wright, but I think Mr. Wright is eager to get on with telling us about what he wants to do. So I am going to stop sharing and give it over to Mr. Wright. Take it away, Richard.
It helps if you click that little thing at the bottom with the picture of the microphone. Yeah. Anyway, thanks, Alex. It's always fun to come and hang out with you guys. And I think that spike was the topic more than just me, but we'll see. So, all right, let's see if I can get my screen shared properly. I'm going to moon you temporarily and then start this guy. All right, so hi, I'm Richard Wright, if you don't know me. A lot of you probably do. So I'm with Bisque, and I'm going to talk about the TheSky Fusion tonight. I'm going to kind of lead up to and talk also about kind of the evolution of the Fusion, as well as talking about what the Fusion does. And I even have sort of a quasi live demo of how to get into the Fusion, and I'll show you. I don't think anybody's seen the Fusion operating environment. And I'm going to do that at the very end, and then we'll have some questions. So if you have the very latest issue of Sky and Telescope, we have 2 ads in this month's Sky and Tel. We're announcing, the Fusion. Well, we announced the Fusion back at AIC in November, but now we're starting to make a lot more noise about it because we're about ready to start shipping them to people. We're also talking about our newest edition of the Sky. The SkyX Professional is now the Sky Imaging Edition. It is at a lower price, $595. It's essentially the same thing as the Sky Professional plus the T-Point add-on and the camera add-on. The only problem with the T-Point add-on and the camera add-on is they weren't really add-ons. They were deeply integrated in the app, people would buy it and say, where do I download it? And there's never anywhere to download it. You just put in a serial number and it would activate all the features that were related to having camera control, or all the features that were related to having T-Point. Well, the imaging experience with the camera add-on and with T-Point is just really great, and just everybody just needs to be using it. And so to make things simpler and possibly even a little more affordable, we just have a new packaging, if you will, TheSky Imaging. So, we've been doing this integration for a long time with the software, one program doing everything. And really, TheSky Fusion is the next step in that process as well. Now we are integrating the software and the hardware together. So when you buy TheSky Fusion, it's really the fusion of a hardware computer and the software. It's more like an imaging device or an imaging appliance, if you will, just a single box that just does one thing and one thing only. You don't watch Netflix on it. You don't download viruses, and you just do imaging on it, and that's all it's going to be. We've been on this road for a while. I think I've been demonstrating using small computers at star parties and expos for, I think it's been 7 years actually. Started doing prototypes with the Raspberry Pi and other of these little small computers. And now we're finally to the point where we're happy with something we're going to ship, the TheSky Fusion. The whole industry is going this way. Lots of people, hobbyists are buying parts and building these things themselves. I mean, let's face it, I can't think of a single example of anything in the world that's not cheaper to build yourself. You can build your own house or make your own butter, and maybe it's better when you do it that way, but we pay people to do things for us all the time. Well, we've got a nice package, and so have some other people put together things. Prima Luce has a Windows solution with their little computer that is an embedded device. There are several Raspberry Pi based solutions on the market as well. How did we get here? How did this happen? I want to give you a quick rundown of really the evolution of astrophotography, if you will. I was helping with a science fair, and this photo on the left-hand side, or the image on the left-hand side of this photo, is a glass plate that was taken in 1977 of a little galaxy pair. And you look at it with this loop, and they've got a glass plate archive up there at Perry in Western North Carolina. And I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. I think I should go home and image that. And I go home and I set up, it was a Celestron Edge HD and a Starlight Express camera and a Paramount, of course. And in the middle of a sod field in Okeechobee, I imaged these two galaxies. This is not really super APOD galaxy pair here, but not bad. The image on the left cost millions and millions of dollars. The image on the right cost a few $1,000s and was taken at a sod farm in Florida. And for perspective, 1977, that's when Star Wars came out. So this is how far we've come since Star Wars was in movie theaters, from glass plates to CCD and CMOS cameras in the middle of a pasture in under dark skies, anywhere we want. Modern astrophotography too, it's very computerized. It's like herding cats. I like to show this photo because this is a working night photo, not a, hey, I'm going to do some imaging. But there's just, camera's got to be controlled, mounts got to be controlled. You might be guiding, you got a filter wheel, autofocus runs, do heaters, environmental sensors, and all of that stuff has to be orchestrated and has to work together. And that's a formidable challenge to put together. Becoming less so today, but it is quite a bit of integration that has to go on to make all of these different parts work. Back when I was an engineer at Lockheed Martin, I remember a manager talking about, everybody's got their little module to work on. It takes far less time for you to build your little piece than it does to integrate it. Integration is always the most expensive part of any engineering product or project. And integrating all these things together is much harder than just writing a guiding program, or just writing a program to open the shutter, or just writing a program to move the mount. Getting all of that stuff to work together is also a bit of a chore. Now, in the beginning, computers, nobody had computers in their home unless they were a Bond villain or something in their garage. They were very large. And over the years, we started getting personal computers to do little things on. And a lot of us remember kind of the big box era or the big beige box area. And and actually computer display technology, LCDs kind of leapt ahead of computers. We still had big boxes and LCDs got very small. I remember a big Silicon Graphics CRT tube, and the day came when I had to sadly take it to the end of the driveway. And I remember my back hurt for a week after that. It was a big, heavy thing I shouldn't have been carrying myself. And now it's nothing. You can do this. You can put a big box under your mount and have that control everything. But today, or in recent time, I would say kind of the standard imaging computer is a laptop. Most people will get a laptop or a little netbook of some sort, and this is what they're going to leave out to their mount. I stole this picture from an Apple ad. I doubt Apple's going to mind that I'm giving them additional advertising for free, but look at this computer. It's nothing but display. There's nothing there. The electronics, the memory, the storage, it's all integrated to the point to where your computer display is the largest part of your computer anymore. So computers are very powerful by today's standards, but they've also gotten very, very small by any standards, really. One of the most common questions people ask me is, especially if they're coming on board the Bisque way of doing things, I'm going to buy TheSky. I understand it's a very sophisticated program. I want to make sure I get a computer that can handle it. And I'm like, well, are you going to do image processing, or are you just going to be doing imaging? Because if you're going to run PixInsight and all sorts of things, and you're going to be stacking, you need lots of memory and lots of CPU. But if you're just telling a camera every 5 minutes to take a picture and download it, you do not need a huge amount of CPU horsepower. It doesn't take that much computing horsepower to monitor a telescope and a couple of cameras and flew to different places and maintain databases. Not by a long shot. Go ahead and invest. Don't let me tell you shouldn't buy a big fire-breathing laptop if you're going to do image processing, or actually you get more miles for your money. Just buy a big fire-breathing desktop to do your image processing on. But for running the computer outside, you don't need that much. You don't need that much power. Well, okay, great. About 10 years ago, we had this revolution. The tablet revolution, right? All right. So Steve Jobs is pushing the iPad, and Samsung is jumping in there, and all kinds of people have got these little tablets. And the most reasonable, intuitive leap is, why can't I just use my tablet to run my imaging, all my imaging? And I tried it. And all right, 10 years ago, I'm like, hey, we can do this. We're going to run it from the tablet. No. Okay, so here's the problem with running things directly from the tablet. How do you connect to all the devices? You got to convince all the hardware vendors to go Wi-Fi, and this is a significant technical challenge and a significant stability challenge. Where are you going to store all the images? It is true that today, 10 years later, it is true that tablets have a lot more storage on them. But I have to say the Wi-Fi situation has not improved that much in 10 years. The Wi-Fi is a little bit faster, but try using the Wi-Fi on the North Field at the next Texas Star Party when there's 37 Wi-Fi hotspots all around you. It is not going to be that reliable, and you do not want to be relying on that to work in order to make sure your guider camera is moving the mount exactly the way it needs to be. Multitasking on a tablet is also, as Gollum would say, tricksy. It's very tricksy to multitask on a tablet. To a large extent, on iOS, this is not even possible unless you just want to watch movies while you're doing something else. And tablets won't last all night either. So wireless stability, I kind of already talked about that. And so it just doesn't really solve the power issues either when you're out there. So portable imaging. This is my favorite thing is portable imaging. I like to go places and image. For me, photography is like hunting. I want to go catch it, kill it, skin it, and eat it. I don't want to harvest data from someplace in Chile. I want to freaking fly to Chile and go up on the mountain and image for a couple of nights. That to me is photography. I'm not dismissing the importance of image processing. That's a whole nother thing, but image processing by itself is not photography. I want to go get the data. So, and I'm not disparaging anybody. I'm just saying what motivates me as a person. So I want to do this. I want to do portable imaging. I want to go somewhere and set up a camera, This is one of my trips to the Dry Tortugas on a ferry. You can go out there and camp, and there's weight limits, and it's a really cool sort of personal challenge to go out there and get data. And this is great. And when you want nice skyscapes, this is fine. And I love shooting Milky Ways and skyscapes as much as anybody in Texas or Grand Canyon or wherever else. But let's be honest, this is really what we're going to come home with. If I have to travel somewhere where there's nice dark skies, this is what I want to come home with is a really nice deep image of a deep sky object. There's only like 2 hours. Believe it or not, there's only like 2 hours worth of data on this galaxy, but it's from a very nice, dark sky. It's also a very nice, very sensitive camera, et cetera, et cetera. But I can't do this in my backyard. I can't spend $1 million and do this in my backyard. I live too close to Orlando to do this. And maybe I could if I took 10,000 hours worth of data, but it's just, I have to go somewhere. So this is what we end up with for portable deep sky. We need a mount that we can lift, a smallish optic, 8 or 10 inches at the largest, or a refractor, a cooled camera or DSLR. We got to have a laptop. And then we got to power our laptop, so we got to bring a deep cycle battery or a generator along. And here's the thing: this is what takes the most power. This is why you need the deep cycle batteries. I can run now. I don't know how many of you have FLI cameras. Great cameras, but listen, you need like a small nuclear power pile to run those things all night. All right, even a deep cooled FLI monster camera cooled to 30 below zero does not draw near as much power as plugging in that Alienware computer for 15 minutes. Those big laptops just simply suck power like nobody's business. So here's the problem. And for years, I'm like, I bring extra batteries for my laptop. Of course, then you have to shut that laptop down to change batteries, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm a software guy, and along comes the embedded computing revolution. Now, embedded computing, what that means is you build a computer into something and the computer sort of disappears. So there's a computer in your car, but you don't think about driving around your computer. You think about driving around your car. There's a computer probably in your washing machine and your microwave, but you don't think about cooking your food with your computer. You're cooking your food with your microwave. So of course I stole this from Wikipedia. Basically what it means is the computer disappears into the device. So smartphones, tablets, automobiles, common household appliances, your DSLR camera actually is got a computer in it, pocket computers. Those are all good examples of embedded computing. And one of the biggest characteristics of them is they draw low power. So you can run them on battery for a very long amount of time. They're very efficient. They don't waste computer cycles, so they don't get really hot doing nothing. They only use power to do what the computer needs to do. Now, a more broader definition of embedded computing, which is commonly accepted, is it's just a dedicated computer. It doesn't necessarily have to completely disappear. It's just a computer that only does one thing. So there's no bloat. You don't browse and do email. You don't get on Facebook and start pointless arguments. You don't get on social media. You don't download movies, but it's still a computer. And you can do system updates as you need to, and they're user serviceable. And most of us know how to use a computer. So that's a nice advantage. We got one dedicated computer just doing one thing. So we don't get our system shut down in the middle of the night while important updates are being installed, or you don't have to worry about your kids. When my kids were in school, they'd go do some internet searches, and then I'd have to wipe the computer and reformat it because they were doing research on foxes, for science class or something. If the computer's just used for one thing, and so it's a nice, stable environment. In fact, as a software engineer, sometimes I'm at odds, even from the support side of things. People say, I got a problem. They say, do you have the latest version? And really, sometimes I want to say, no, just, does it work? Yes. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. Don't update ASCOM. Don't even update our software. If everything is working and you don't need a new feature we just came out with, or it's a bug fix for FLI cameras and you have SBIG cameras, don't download it. Don't touch it. If you've got a system that works, don't touch it. To me, my time is valuable. And I expect for you, your time is valuable as well. And another thing, I just have to get on the soapbox. I'm a little triggered. I'm sorry, but stop coming to star parties with stuff still in the box that you've never taken out of the box. I know it's great to come to a star party because the skies are dark and you got lots of people to help you. But I'm getting a little manic here, aren't I? But open it up in your living room first. Nobody on this pretty green little planet ships their hardware with a disk, and the disk is actually the latest version of the software. And it's usually buggy. So yes, in that case, when you're just getting started, make sure you have the latest version. So download the updates, make sure everything is working, plug it in. Can it connect to the camera? It can connect to the camera. It downloads static. All right, great. Now I can go to a star party or I can go and image on it. Anyway, sorry about that. Now I'll never be invited again. Probably not, but anyway, where are we? So system on a chip revolution, back to the topic at hand. Where are we? So the Raspberry Pi sort of kicks things off, for 14 bucks or something like that. Ridiculous. You could buy a computer. And look at this. This is a main board of a Raspberry Pi. You see this little black square here? That's the computer. All the stuff around it is just support stuff for the computer. The Ethernet port and the USB, that's all bigger than the computer. So that Apple ad I was showing you where it's just a monitor. This is why the electronics are so small now. They just don't take up hardly any room. And small electronics also, they draw less current and they don't get as hot. So lots of advantages. There are other things you can go with. There's Android, there's Odroid, Panda board, Rock 64, the Intel Compute Stick. The Intel Compute Stick, this is freaking Windows on a thumb drive, and you can actually boot off of that and run Windows. Tinkerboard, lots of these things that you can choose for. And the hobbyists in the Astro imaging community, as well as other communities, are just jumping all over this stuff and building all sorts of little things. So what are you going to run on it? Well, if you get an Intel-based thing, you can put Windows on there and run all the same stuff as your laptop. ASCOM, everybody's comfortable with that on Windows. Knock yourself out, and you can have an environment that you already know how to use. Most people are going with Linux on these things. There's a professional package. The Sky Imaging Edition is available for Linux. By the way, that's also available for the desktop now. It's sort of always been available for the desktop, but now we're actually making a little more noise about it. Lots of open source solutions, K-Star, Stellarium, Ecos, and Indie Server is sort of like the ASCOM for Linux. Don't nail me to a tree over that, but it's more or less the same thing as ASCOM for Linux. It's a standard along those lines. So it's a rough thing. Linux. Oh, people just sometimes they get really worried about Linux. What is this Linux stuff? Well, remember, it's an embedded device. You don't care. You're just doing one thing, astrophotography, and we want to do that one thing well, and we should not care. Do you care that your DVR is running Linux, or that your car is running Linux, or that your GPS or your Android phone? Yes, Android is actually running Linux under Android, or your imaging system. You just turn it on and you start imaging. You're not really using the operating system. You're using the software that's presented to you. Okay, great. I got all this stuff on this little computer, and it's wonderful. I can image all night on a battery. How do I talk to it? Remote desktop. Now, remote desktop is a brand name from Microsoft, but there are a lot of things that generically fall under remote desktop. You can use your tablet or your phone to get into it. You can use Windows Remote Desktop. They actually have some Linux stuff. There are free clients for iOS and Android and Mac OS and everything else. VNC is another free solution. Depends on who you talk to. VNC works better. No, Remote Desktop works better. It's kind of like chocolate and vanilla. Nobody's really right and nobody's really wrong sometimes about those things. There are free clients and servers, so it's really nice. There's also HTML5 wrappers. Now, HTML5 is it's rather old standard now, but for a while it was a new hot thing. It enabled browsers to host and stream media, so they're very high performance. You don't get these clunky web pages where they're forms. If you think that a modern web application is like ordering something on Amazon, you've not experienced a really nice HTML5 hosted application. Now, with the remote desktop, ideally, we want to use something that has a user interface that's optimized for that. You can use a full desktop application on your tablet. And I've done it a few times, and it's like, okay, this is kind of nice, but it's kind of tedious after a while. If I get my laptop and I'm connecting to it, that's great. I got the full laptop experience. But on my tablet, you know, trying to type into those little things, sometimes it's less than optimum. So a lot of people figured this out, and they're starting to make tablet optimized or touch optimized interfaces. The Sky LTI is really sort of, it's not 100% touch. It looks great on the desktop as well, but it's very touch friendly. And I'll give you a demo of that later, running right on the Fusion. You could use a laptop. Why would you want to connect to it with your laptop? Actually, there's a couple of good reasons, because here's an example of me running the full screen interface. And this screenshot is probably a Raspberry Pi. You get the full screen interface. And so I can connect with my laptop to the device, get things going the way I want. And my laptop doesn't have to be on all night. Once I get everything going, I close my laptop, and now it goes to sleep, and I'm saving my laptop battery. Meanwhile, my embedded computer is running my imaging run the rest of the night. And I'll set an alarm for 2 o'clock and make sure the meridian flip happened and everything's going all right. I'll open up my laptop, or a lot of times I'm in my tent and I'll just look at my tablet and go, oh, okay, everything's going okay. Yeah, nice sub. And I'll go back to sleep. And in the morning, I want my computer to be, you know, I want my mount parked, and I want a big folder full of FITS files. So anyway, you can use it with the tablet along with your phone to get set up and get going. And you don't have to leave it outside all night. You know, I'm a professional software engineer. I usually spend, you know, $3,000 or $4,000 on a laptop. I do not want to set a $3,000 laptop outside all night next to the telescope. We have stuff here in Florida. We got raccoons and birds and possums and rain. It will spontaneously rain out of nowhere. 0% chance of rain, and you'll wake up to the sound of, you know, rain running through your gutters. I don't want to leave a laptop outside. Also, if you connect over Ethernet, it's just faster, which I think should be a real word. It's faster. So, okay, but it's ASCOM, Alpaca, Indy, X2, you know, people ask these questions, and I don't know why. You know, engineers should ask these questions, and people who are just really technical and really love this stuff, they can ask these questions. But sometimes a lot of people ask these questions because they think they're supposed to ask these questions. And I'm like, why do you care? Do you support ASCOM? Do you support Alpaca? Do you support Indy? None of that is relevant. All right. And you're like, well, wait a minute, Richard. No. Here's what's relevant. Do you support my mount? Can I plug my mount into your device and will it work? Yes. Why do you care if I control your mount over HTTP or HTML or sonic brainwaves? If it connects to your mount and it makes your mount what you want to do, if it makes your camera work, if it makes all your devices work, why do you care? The day's coming too, and I've been doing computers for a long time. That's what my mom says, by the way. If you ask your mother what her son does, he does computers. I've been doing computers for a really long time, and I've seen these technology waves come, and I'm very, very confident the day's coming very soon. Nobody's going to care about Windows or Mac OS or Linux anymore at all. And by very soon, you know, it might be another 10 years, but it is happening to some extent. And you're not going to care. I'm going to buy a box and I'm going to turn it on, and it's going to say, okay, what do you want to take a picture of tonight? And you shouldn't care. When you buy a new car on the car lot, do you ask what operating system is running on your car? The salesman probably doesn't even know there's a computer, much less an operating system inside your automobile. And the salesman, neither should you be caring unless you are a real tinkerer. You shouldn't care what rev of Linux and what point release is running and is worried about your fuel control or whatever. And as you can tell, I don't care either in my car. Just what does it do what I need it to do? All right, so we're going to circle back around to the Linux stuff, and then I'll give you an actual demo. Let me talk about power, because I made a big deal about power. Power is great. For these small devices, you got lots of options that are very easy to carry around that I never had, say 10 years ago when I was, you know, when I would pile up my Toyota and drive to North Carolina or somewhere to find, a good remote place to image. You can get these lithium iron phosphate batteries, very light. They're virtually immune to cold, and they're safer than regular lithium ion. They're a little pricey, but like I said, they're very light. When I went to the Tortugas, this is what I took with me on the boat. There's a weight limit, and you can pack a lot of energy in one of these little light batteries. Also, these guys are really popular, especially in our neck of the woods with software Bisque, the Ego batteries. Ego makes a whole series of rotting lawnmowers and weed eaters and those sorts of things. You can buy these rechargeable batteries. They pack quite a punch, 56 volts, 7.5 amp hours at 56 volts, like this big one here. That's a lot of current stored. And our Paramount just happens, you could actually feed in straight 56 volts and get away with it. And so we made an adapter for these to feed the Paramount. We will have a new adapter for the Fusion that does the voltage conversion, and you can run both the Paramount and the Fusion off of one of these batteries. And in fact, it should let you put two batteries on there, and they'll be hot swappable, which is pretty good. I can run them out a couple of nights actually on one of these batteries. So I imagine they're going to run the other stuff pretty good as well. Lots of other options. Actually, after setting fire to one or two things, there's a reason I'm a software guy, by the way, not a hardware guy. But I've let the smoke out of a lot of homemade battery systems. And I finally gave up and I just bought one of these little Goal Zero guys. These are great. They even got a little gauge on it, and they'll tell you, how much you can measure, how much current's being drawn, and it'll tell you how much time you have left at the current draw, and it'll put out 12 volts. And I ran my Fusion every night on this at the Winter Star Party because we had no power there at the campsite, and I could go all night. I ran the mount off an Ego, and I ran the camera, an FLI micro line, even off of this Goal Zero with the 12 volts here. Don't use these. Just a little side tip. These guys and your AC adapters. Oh my gosh! Why don't you just set fire? Just go ahead and buy a smaller battery and let it run out anyway if you're going to do that. Convert everything so that you just send 12 volts into your system, and 12 volts runs everything, and you'll get much better power efficiency. I do want to give lead acid batteries a shout out, even though they're big and heavy and old school. Nice thing about these is they don't need any kind of special chargers. You can go to a freaking Walmart or AutoZone and get a charger if you forget it. They're very economical. You can't ship batteries if you're not driving. You can't ship them. You can't take them on an airplane. And it's actually cheaper. I actually got away with shipping batteries a couple of times, and it was always a few $100s by the time you ship them there and by the time you ship them back. Well, guess what? When you get off the plane, go to Walmart and buy one for $100. And when you're done, give it away. Don't throw it away. Be responsible. But you can give it away to I gave the last one away. No, I gave one away to the UPS store clerk, and I gave one away to somebody at the Star Party who made me sandwiches. I said, hey, you made me sandwiches. How'd you like a free battery? And they were thrilled. Just give it away. Like I said, less than $100 to just buy it outright and dispose it when you're traveling. So what does this look like? Let's get down to it. Now you know why the Sky Fusion exists. All right, there's this inescapable evolution forward. Technology is marching forward. Technique is marching forward, and the Fusion is an inevitable result of that. So here it is, the Sky Fusion. This is a prototype. We have changed the LCD a little bit. There'll be a few little details that are different when they're shipping. But the Fusion has, 4 USB 3 ports. We're using Anderson power poles. These things are real easy to use. Anderson power poles, you can order them on Amazon. You don't have to order a special cable from somebody, and it doesn't cost $100 to make a cable that goes from the Fusion to your camera. It usually costs like $8. And even though I am extremely not mechanically inclined, I watched a YouTube video and learned how to crimp Anderson power poles. And believe me, if I can do it, you can do it too. We even threw in a little 9-pin old style I almost called it USB. Well, 9-pin serial cable. So if you've got like what do I have that uses that? Oh, I've got a RoboFocus that uses that, and there's probably a couple of people with mounts that still take these 9-pin RS-232. RS-232 is real easy. You don't need any kind of special driver at all. This is like, it'd be great if everything just used this. There's lots of reasons why that's not practical, but boy, it would sure make our lives easier as developers if everything just used RS-232 to communicate with it. So you got this little box with all these wires sticking out of it. You just stick it up on top of your telescope. We actually make, I think there's a little picture of me in the corner. We actually make a little dovetail adapter, and you can put that on the top or on the bottom. And so if you got a dovetail on top of your telescope, you can stick it up there. If you got a dovetail on the bottom, you can hang it off the bottom of the telescope. Once or twice, I don't even bother to put it on the telescope. I just sit it next to the telescope. Like I said, I don't want to leave my laptop outside all night. And it's got a little scope, like a DSLR and a focuser, and I can run everything off of our VersaPlate. So, another word from our sponsor, right? The VersaPlate here has got, a couple of USB ports on it as well. And also we can run power through the mount very easily. And so sometimes I don't need, anything real sophisticated, and I'll just put the box, next to the mount and run it that way. The check boxes for the marketing people, what do you get? Linux-based, you get this full Sky Imaging Edition experience. You also get LTI, which is our light version of the Sky, streamlined version of our imaging. And I've talked about that on previous shows. About $600 worth of software. I used to say $1,000 worth of software. Can't say that anymore. Now it's only $600 worth of software. Good for you, bad for me, I guess. But still, $600 worth of software just to buy the software. But there's also all this integration. There is a custom version of the operating system that is a couple of years worth of effort into getting this right and trying it. And I actually have a kind of an insider list of beta testers who would go, Richard, I tried it last night and it exploded or whatever, and have helped me refine it. And so we've made this as bulletproof as we possibly can. And no small amount of effort went into that. And I appreciate you all paying my power bill and occasionally buying me a Starbucks for that. 4 USB 3 ports, 9-pin serial. There's also Ethernet, and the Wi-Fi. We have an external Wi-Fi antenna. One of the things I've been preaching Raspberry Pi for a long time. One of the weaknesses with the Raspberry Pi, the early Raspberry Pi prototypes, or primordial types, that probably would be more accurate, was the Wi-Fi signal strength. And the mount would slew a little bit, and then there's a telescope between the Wi-Fi antenna and my patio, or between that and my bedroom, or between that and my tent. And so we found that an external antenna works much, much better for Wi-Fi reliability. We also have the built-in GPS, and here's a little screen. I kind of blurred out my latitude and longitude so that I can send a missile at me. But if the GPS does a couple of things, actually. Of course, it lets you get the location, so you can bring up the location dialog, go to the GPS tag. And so if you've gone somewhere, you can get your exact GPS coordinates. If you're doing something like satellite tracking or occultation, you really need the location to be pretty accurate, but you also need the time to be accurate. And the GPS is wired into the OS so that when you boot up, the GPS validates the time. And so a lot of people don't realize that GPS also has a very accurate time component to it. So system time is very accurate, and you also have very accurate location. That was another thing on the, in the Raspberry Pi days. You go somewhere, and if you don't have one of those little RTC chips, and we do have one of those in the Fusion as well, the GPS signal hasn't picked up, so we don't just like reset it with garbage if there's no GPS signal. But bringing up the terminal and having to set the date on the Linux command line, that's a non-starter for a commercial product. So anyway, the GPS, this is one of the things that I felt very strongly needed to be in our product, because it just takes that stumbling block and just one little tiny little bit of frustration in the dark at a star party while people are talking to you is now gone. And it's just, you always know that things are gonna be where you need to be. How do you get into Fusion? Well, same way as I was talking about before. It does have an HDMI port. You can put it on your desk and plug in a keyboard and a mouse and a HDMI monitor, and go to town. You can use it like it's a regular desktop if you wanted to. We also have the Wi-Fi and Ethernet ports, so you can network in with a VNC client or any modern web browser. We do have the Sky HD, which is our iOS version of the Sky. It's really great for using with our Wi-Sky board for visual. If you want a hand controller for your Paramount for visual astronomy, you can use the Sky HD or the Sky for your iPhone. And we'll have a new release of that very soon, before the end of the month, I promise. A new release of the Sky HD, and it'll have a button in there, and it just flips over. The screen just flips over, and it's the screen from Fusion. So you don't even have to type in, a URL or anything every time. And you can use it from anything. If you got a Windows computer and you want to get into it, you can. If you got a Mac and you want to get into it, you can. If you've got a Linux computer and you want to get into it, you can. I have an iOS device, no problem. I like Android better. iOS stinks. Well, fine, use Android, no big deal. In fact, this photo right here is a Samsung Galaxy tablet. I took that picture just because people were like, "Are you sure it works on Android?" Yes, it does. And also people are amazed that I actually own or have done anything with Android. So the Sky Imaging Edition, just sort of, again, if you're, I can't assume that everybody knows what I'm talking about when I mention these things. The Sky Imaging Edition is a fully integrated package for doing imaging. So you've got star charting and planning, deep extendable databases, device control across the board, with our T-point technology, advanced mount modeling, which is really not just pointing performance, but also tracking performance, especially for Paramounts. And it's also scriptable, and there are multiple automation options that you can use on the desktop that will that sit on top of the Sky Imaging Edition, or what used to be known as the Sky Professional Edition. We also have the Sky LTI. We've been sort of quietly introducing this over the years as sort of an experiment. It's starting to get a lot of traction now and becoming more mainstream. But the Sky LTI, this isn't a separate program. It's just the Sky starts up in a different mode. And the user interface it presents to you is only 1024 by 768. And it fits perfectly on your Android or your iOS tablet. And I try to make you press buttons or have to bring up the keyboard as little as possible. And so it's very streamlined. It is very powerful in that it makes imaging much, much easier for you, but it's also, it doesn't have the full feature set of the Sky Professional or the Sky Imaging Edition. If you want to do a lot of really advanced stuff, you're probably going to stick with the Sky Imaging Edition, as it has more things that are really exposed to you right away. But if you just want to set up tonight and you want to image 2 or 3 targets and you need to focus in between them and you're not fooling with guiding, that actually might be another good topic. Just guiding needs to die. What can I do to make imaging more easy? Stop guiding. With modern cameras and modern optics, I feel another soapbox coming on. Somebody might have to tell me to shut up, but I think guiding just needs to die. You can get enough data with a short exposure to get over the read noise of a modern camera, and just you're making it hard on yourself. Well, I want an easy way to do it, but still make it hard on myself. And then I'm done with the conversation. I do guide. I do guide if I'm doing sulfur or oxygen on some really faint thing. You got to go a long time. And for those things, no, LTI is not going to fit it. But you just want to do some HA shots, or you want to do RGB or one-shot color on a few targets tonight. LTI makes that very, very, very painless. And you can do it all on a tablet with your Fusion or your laptop. And it's a nice experience. Here's a couple of photos of early adopter customer set up in his observatory with the Fusion set up. Here's another photo from my backyard. As you can tell, early prototype, no text on there or anything. And there it is, just riding up there. My cable management sometimes is not what it should be, because I usually tear it down and set it up every night, or I'm changing things around. Now, this is not just for mobile imagers. Now, I have a lot of passion for mobile imaging. Don't get me wrong, though. This is not my bias. It doesn't mean that's the only thing it's good for. What about backyard imagers? Do you want to leave your laptop outside all night? When I say the raccoons have picnics in my backyard. I am not kidding. They really do, and they often leave me presents from the neighbors' trash. Just set it up, join your home Wi-Fi, and control it from your living room or in bed. My wife and I are watching TV, and I'll say, "Look, honey, it's the Horsehead Nebula." She's like, "Finally, you're imaging, or you're doing something with astronomy that I'm, can get behind." She doesn't like getting bit by mosquitoes, and nobody likes to wait for image downloads. But anyway. Small observatory, lengthy USB extenders don't work very well. I know that's a statement that'll cause a fight. I've got an Icon, blah, blah, blah. I'm glad it works for you. But in general, a lot of times they work. Most of the time they don't. And they work for a while and then they'll quit working. And my philosophy is I want something that works. I really do not want to be debugging equipment all night. I have to do that often as my job. When I'm imaging for fun, I don't want to do it. People are amazed that it's not fun for me to help them solve their imaging problems. But when I'm imaging on my own, solving problems is not that fun. I just want to set it up and get it going, and I want to enjoy the experience. I do it often enough, when I have to. Ethernet cable, run that from your pier into the house. If you can do Ethernet instead of Wi-Fi, let me tell you, it's really, you can't tell you're not sitting on the computer. The remote desktop is just that fast. And even for a remote site, it's very reliable. There's not a fan that's running. There's no fan in the Fusion. We've done lots of tests with the hardware, and it gets hot in Florida, let me tell you. We don't have a fan in there. So there's not a fan moving for bugs to crawl into. There's not a hard drive that's spinning. It's all solid state. I didn't put that on the slide anywhere, but there's an EMC card that is much faster than an SD card, has 128 gigabytes on it. Plus there's a 256 gigabyte SD card. You can't get in and remove it because you don't need to. And it has the full, it actually is going to ship with our database add-on already included. So you get the full DSS catalog. And we have, we're going to ship it. I don't know if this is public or not. This is what you get for watching the Astro Energy channel, but we're going to ship it with the Gaia database, which is a very deep star database as well. So very exciting, lots of data capability there. And I'm going to show you in the live demo how to get your images off of the device. And you don't need a screwdriver, and you don't have to worry about dropping a little chip in the grass in the dark or anything.
Quick question for you, Richard, before you go on.
Yep.
There's one question in the YouTube chat about the power ports. Are they individually addressable such that you can turn them on and off?
Yes. I'm going to show you too. I'm going to show you in a minute. Okay. Give me 2 minutes. I'll show you. All right. So going embedded with Linux. Why did we go with Linux? Why didn't you just go with Windows? It'd be so much easier. Because here's the thing: when you're engineering a product, you can make things easier on the engineers, or you can make things easier on the customers. And we decided to make things easier on the customers. Embedded Linux is the OS system of choice for mission critical applications. And I think imaging is a mission critical application. When you set that up, by God, this is the only night this week it's going to be clear. It's the only night all month that it's been clear, and I didn't have to go to a PTA meeting, and there wasn't something I had to do with my family. And this needs to work. And if it doesn't work, and then you got to put something on the forum, and you got to wait till the next day, you're out of business. So that's very unfortunate. Nobody likes that. How can we get rid of that? One of the things we can do is say, stop updating your daggone operating system. Because I would say a very large percentage of our tech support problems are due to the operating system. The operating system turning off your USB ports to save power. That's great, right? I'm downloading an image every 5 minutes, but somehow you decided that it's not dry, that you're going to turn it off to save power. And then everything goes to bed. Raise your hand if you got the first image and you looked at it and you went to bed and you came back the next morning and 3 minutes later it crashed and it did nothing all night long. I've done that. I've had that experience many times, and when I talk to my fellow imagers, they've had that experience as well. So great. We're gonna use an operating system that we're not going to update. We're not going to touch it. So we're going to inherently have a system that's less vulnerable. Because let's face it, nobody is trying to hack your imaging system to install a secret porn server or something. And you don't have bank account information on there that people can get into. So, you know, the risk security, yeah, people could get into it or somebody might find it, but it's not nearly like it is with a desktop computer that you also do your banking and your email and all that sort of thing on. So we don't need to introduce all of this. In software, we call that a regression. Every time you fix something, it's like Hydra. 2 more bugs show up to take its place. So we try to keep things stable, and when it all works, leave it alone and let it work. 5, 10 years from now, when you boot up the Fusion, it's going to be just as fast as the day you bought it. You're not going to be going, oh, I need to reinstall the operating system and all this sort of thing. You know, if you haven't upgraded all your equipment is already anyway, it's just going to keep working. People, you know, are you afraid of your, well, maybe some people are afraid of their DVR. Maybe I shouldn't talk about that. But, you know, we use things that have Linux running behind them all the time, and we don't even know it. And we don't even care. All right, so who wants a demo? Let's close that, go back to the moon. And okay, so in order to stay on the internet, I'm not joining the Wi-Fi of my development Fusion. Instead, I have made the Fusion join my house network, and I'm just going to use a browser. So this is Chrome. This is on a Mac, and I'm just going to type in the Sky Fusion. Now, if you're on a non-Windows operating system, you have to put .local. If you're on Windows, you don't have to do that. And basically, the Sky Fusion broadcasts to its network. My name is the Sky Fusion, and so you don't have to know, you know, 192.168. Blah 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 blah. You just put in the Sky Fusion, and you get a login screen. We figure it's not really that much of a security risk, but maybe we should at least, you know, close the front door. So you have to put in a password. I just typed it in there and hit enter or log in, and it brings you right into the Sky Fusion. And this is the Sky Fusion desktop. Let me, Chrome's got a nice full screen feature here. So here we are, full screen. This is the Linux desktop. Now what I meant to have running, I was playing with it before the talk. This is what you get for playing before the talk. The Sky LTI is already running when you turn it on. So when you turn it on, you don't have to go to the desktop like we just did. As soon as you log in, you see the Sky and it's ready to go. And so with LTI, you just connect all your devices, obviously the simulator. And this is kind of, again, this is our streamlined imaging workflow. One-time configuration to make sure your focuser, and we know what your pixel scale. We can do a lot of stuff. If we know what your pixel scale is and we know how to make sure your focuser works, we can do a lot. We can do a lot of just stand back and let Daddy drive here and do some things. Key point is much simplified. There's none of that supermodel, turn these terms off. Really, nobody has any business fooling with those terms. Just, you know, pick how many samples you want and say, you know, start it. And if you want to do an accurate polar alignment afterwards, it does that as well. When you select a target, I do have a little quickie thing here. So if you know, got a stylus or something, you don't have to bring up the keyboard, you know, slew to the target. You can set the, automatically set the file prefix. This is something, somebody sends me a folder full of files and they're all 089J4.fit. I'm like, well, it's something in there. So we automatically set that up. You get the target name in the FITS file. If you're using filters, it'll say, you know, red. It also has the camera temperature and all that. That's all in the file name. You can do that in the Sky, but nobody does it. So we just do that for you kind of automatically with LTI. Verify photographically is the English. I can explain this to the barista at Starbucks, and she understands what verify photographically means. It means go to the object and take a picture and make sure I'm there. In tech speak, we call that closed loop slew. Focus, you can run focus, control the imager. We have live stacking in the Sky. I think I've talked about that in a previous talk as well. You can set up an imaging run. This is a little different than it looks in the Sky Pro or the Sky Imaging Edition because, again, we don't want a table. You don't want an Excel spreadsheet on your tablet. So this interface looks a lot different. You can select common exposures just by clicking with your finger or clicking with the stylus. Set these things, all the filters. Obviously, the simulator supports more filters than are practical, and etc. And you can start the series, and there's lots of utilities and things that we can do. And that's sort of the 25-cent tour of the Sky LTI, very, very simplified imaging interface. I'm going to close that now and go back to the main desktop. It's Linux. What if I need to change something? All right, we do not want you monkeying around with Linux. In fact, we do not even give you the system password. Well, what if I need to do something important? Well, we put all these things in a nice little settings program. And so from the settings program, you can actually set up so that on boot, it automatically starts LTI full screen, or it automatically starts imaging edition. You want to use the big boy version of the Sky, or if you just want to see the desktop environment and you want to, kind of call it, on the fly. Also, when you connect an HDMI monitor, you'll get an HDMI resolution. But when you connect remotely, you can select different screen resolutions for that. Normally, I've got mine set to 1920 by 1080 because it's a presentation on the internet. But normally, I have that set to 1024 by 768, and it serves LTI, and it fills up my iPad. And it's a perfectly great way to image. And only rarely anymore do I back out and I go to the Sky imaging. You can change your password. You can join your house network or create your own, Sky Fusion. It'll actually create its own Wi-Fi. A common stumbling block when I'm giving this talk at star parties or something like this is Wi-Fi does not necessarily mean internet, because they're like, well, how can you do Wi-Fi if you don't have internet out in the middle of nowhere? And no, we create our own internet. It's just not connected to the rest of the internet. Maybe that's a good way to say it. It creates its own radio signal, and your iPad or laptop can connect to that hotspot. You can't necessarily go to Google, but you can connect to that device without having the internet. If the internet is nearby, you can use this to connect to a Wi-Fi hotspot that has internet, or you can plug in the Ethernet because your observatory or your house has internet, and you can use it that way. Let's see, there's also, there's an OLED display on the front, 4 lines. The prototypes had 2 lines, but now it's 4 lines. But you can just put some text in here and you can change the brightness. Some people are going to want it to be really bright, and some people are going to want it to be really, really dim. It is red. The actual hardware is not red, but we have a red film over it that works pretty good. And you'd be surprised how many different types of films we tried before we found one that we were happy with. How do you update this? Just go to bring up the settings, go to the software updates tab, and you'll download like a daily build for Fusion, except they're not going to be called daily builds, and they're probably not going to come out that often. Maybe initially, I've been an engineer long enough to know, right away there'll be a few updates. But when an update is needed, you download it's not a zip file, but it's the Linux equivalent of zip. And you'll bring up the file browser, you'll go select that zip and select it, or that file, and you'll get to see and hear what's going on. It extracts it, it runs, the scripts and everything that needs to run in the background to update your system for you. And you may or may not need to reboot depending on what we're updating. Mostly you shouldn't have to update. I think the operating system and the base operating system is exactly what we need it to be, and I don't think we're going to make any changes to it for years. We might update the Sky, and we might add new devices, like, oh yeah, we got a device for such and such camera now, and those sorts of things, but we're not going to be updating the operating system. If you're a Linux guy, if you're a Linux administrator, you're going to say yay, but we're not going to give you the system password. We don't want you doing sudo apt update. And all the Linux administrators out there going, yay, and there's probably a couple of users who are going, oh, I want to do what I want. Well, do what you want, but we're not gonna help you untangle the mess, because I've busted it many times. A kernel patch broke USB support, these sorts of things, and we're going to give you a stable system that we expect to work, and if it doesn't work, we're going to do right by you. But if we give you a stable system that works and you monkey with it, I'm just going to be blunt, you're going to be on your own. So anyway, tough love, right? So if you want the full sky imaging edition, you can just start that up. This looks just like it does on Windows. Ta-da, there it is. There's my sky chart. Camera simulator. Let's see, let's take a picture. No, I don't want to do subframe. I'm looking for DSS. Obviously, with the simulator, I can't take a picture. Let's go to M81 and take a photo. Find, flew. I'm not going to do a closed loop slew. I'm going to pretend to have a Paramount, and I don't need that nonsense. And I'm going to take a picture. And so DSS data. And in this case, it downloaded off the web, but we're going to have the DSS, all the DSS data is actually going to be on an SD card. But it's exactly like what you do any other time. If you already know how to use the Sky, you know how to use the Fusion. There is zero learning curve, and I mean zero learning curve. It's exactly like using it on your desktop, except it's a whole lot easier because you will never in the middle of the night get a please do not turn off your computer while I update everything. And you're never going to wake up with an update to some system framework that broke your half your imaging pipeline. Now, okay, where are the images? It's already set up to put images on the desktop. You can change this. This is the sort of thing, if you really want to put it somewhere else, you can. But it's kind of nice to have, a folder right on the desktop. It is Linux, and the Linux shell, it's like, I only know how to use Windows. Trust me, you know how to use Linux. It looks like Windows 95. Look, here's the desktop. Look, this is a folder. Looks like a folder. You double click it, you see what's inside. Look, here's another folder. It's got FITS files. You guys know how this works. I remember I help people sometimes with PixInsight workshops, and it's like, you really don't have to be a computer jock to do PixInsight, but you have to understand file management. If you can download a zip file and still find it after you've downloaded it, you probably know enough to get by. But you'd be surprised when you give a class, you have to allow for that time. A lot of people, and I'm not mocking anybody, but people who don't use computers for certain types of tasks, the file system is very mysterious to them. Most imagers, I think, have got a good handle on the file system because somewhere on their computer is a folder full of FITS files, and here it is. How do I get that off of the Fusion and onto my computer? There's a couple of ways. One is the Fusion is a computer on your network, and it already has a network share set up. And the user's guide, actually the quick start guide even, has instructions. On Windows, here's how you connect to a network drive. On the Mac, here's how you connect to a network drive. It's very easy. You bring up Finder, you bring up Explorer, and it's like 2 or 3 clicks, and suddenly there's a link on your desktop, and it's pointing to this folder right here where all your images are. If you want, you can plug in a jump drive. I like to use external SSD drives, but you plug in the drive and there it is. It pops right up. This is a very complicated process. I'm being facetious, but pay close attention to this Linux black magic. You click and hold the folder and you drag and then you release and it copies the file. Just like Windows, just like Mac OS, just like Linux, just like every operating system for the last 25 years or more. So anyway, forgive me if I'm being too snarky there, but I just keep running into people who they look at Linux. It's not nearly as scary when you look at it. It's not nearly as scary. And that's it. Everything I showed you, I rushed through this, right? Well, I showed you everything you actually need to know. There is nothing you're going to need to do on the Fusion that I did not just go over. You've got a settings program. All right. Anything that you need to be able to change, that you should be allowed to change, is right here for you. You don't have to do anything else. To get the files off, you just drag and drop. If you want to delete them, you can right click, move them to the trash. There's a little trash can down here. I remember my wife's grandfather's computer quit working, and I went to help him, and he had like 10 gigabytes of stuff in his trash, and it was like a 10 gigabyte hard drive. But you can empty the trash. So, okay, I lied a minute ago. I wasn't really lying, I was wrong. I didn't show you everything you need to know, but now I have, because now I've shown you how to empty the trash. And next, how to shut it down. Just go up here, and do shutdown computer. There's actually going to be a button on the Fusion as well. And when you press the button, it doesn't just power it off. It sends a signal to the operating system, and it will close all of the running programs, including the Sky, and will shut down gracefully. It's sort of like when you're running Windows or the Mac, you don't turn your computer by unplugging it, right? You want to tell it to shut down so that everything goes down nice, and all the files get saved and the file cache gets flushed and all that sort of thing. So you can do that from here. Obviously, you can shut down. But if you're, oh crap, now I got to power up. I got to power my laptop back up, or I got to get my tablet out to go in. No, there's a button on the device. You just press the button, shuts everything down, powers down. If the alarm goes off on your power system, I'm about to lose power, and you're like, oh, just push the button, and it'll go, okay, I'm going to stop the imaging run. I'm going to shut everything down. All the files you've taken have been saved and are safe, and I'm going to shut the operating system down. And when you get power again, you can turn me back on and do your stuff. So now this screen might change a little bit. This is the image is due very, very soon, because I know people are going to go, when's it going to ship? Well, it's not ready to ship yet because I'm still working on the image, but it is going to ship very soon. So we got the Sky, LTI full screen, which I made bigger. I haven't gotten any feedback on that. I may have to change that. But you can actually run LTI, not necessarily full screen, so you can make it a little window. The whole Sky starts up. You see that? I don't know if you saw it. It just blinked by. That's because it's the same program. So you can run it and do other things if you want to. Also, here's a trick. If you're using the Sky imaging, and maybe you want to guide with LTI, you can get your guiding going, and then come over here to Tools, and you can actually start LTI from within the Sky. It turns off the chart. There's technical reasons why I had to do that, but so it turns off the chart, and so now this guy is still running. So you can actually sort of kind of run both of them at the same time. And then you just close it. It goes back to the Sky. And all right, I think I'm out of breath. Any questions? How we doing?
Actually, you did excellently, and a lot of the questions were answered as you went along.
Good.
I have a question. Pricing and add-ons.
Yep. Okay, so $16.95, you get the Fusion, I think. Okay, so engineer, remote, I'm not real involved in that. It's kind of like when I was in college working at UPS, and people would say, I had a box delivered. I don't know anything about your box on the back porch. It's not quite that bad. So if I'm wrong, what I'm saying is I could be wrong, but I think I'm right. $16.95. I think it's actually $15.95 plus $100 for the subscription, and then every year it's $100 to keep getting updates. It doesn't quit working in a year. You can buy it and then move to a desert island somewhere, and civilization could fall, which, given the current conditions, could happen. And it'll still run 10 years from now off of your solar panels. But for $100 a year, you get all the updates and that sort of thing. But $6.95 is the whole package. The add-ons, the camera and the T-point, those aren't add-ons anymore. That's just in there. That's just already there. We're going to have some accessories, and I do not have a definitive list of accessories, one of which is the power system that we talked about. We're going to go ahead and sell cables. The cables are real easy to do yourself, but some people just want to get the cables from the same source. So we're going to have different cable variations. We're also going to have at least 2 power supplies. Everybody doesn't need a big, giant, huge power supply. We're going to have a couple of power supplies. And I just realized I forgot something. Molly, I'm so sorry. I told you I was going to show you the power control. Speaking of power add-ons, yes. So we have a new panel called Power Control and settings. So port 6 and 7 you can basically set those to cycle. So you can have like a dew heater on them, and you can set certain power ports to be on as soon as you power up. Those power ports are on. So some of the power ports can be dead, and some of the power ports can be active. And then you can actually name them too. So let's just connect here. Fusion port 1, I'm going to call this big camera. And if I want to turn big camera on and give it power, I just click there and turn it off. If I want to turn off big camera, that says bit camera. Yeah, same difference. But so yes, each port is individually controlled from the Sky. You can turn them on and off. You can set them up to be automatically on when you restore power, or you can have them off and make sure they only come on, when the Sky directs them to come on. You can also set a couple of them to be 5 volts or 8 volts. So the 8-volt one is useful for like DSLRs, and the 5 volts is useful for like running a second USB hub. That's actually one of our accessories or add-ons. We're going to have a Bisque certified USB hub add-on, and it'll come with a cable that automatically plugs into the power pole for you, and it'll bolt on there, and it'll be a nice clean package. So power, batteries, different power bricks, different cable sets. I might think of another one, but yeah. Any other questions about that stuff?
Yeah, so talk about sequencing. I know the SkyX doesn't really have sequencing built into it. Is the imaging edition going, or LTI going to have that in there?
So the imaging edition, so we have a socket addressable scripting front end of the Sky. So you could actually automate the Sky very easily. Most of the automation programs, however, are building on the Microsoft tools for that, and so they don't work on cross platforms. So it's very easy. It's very easy to talk to the Sky on the Fusion and automate it from another program. So that capability is there. It's not really any different than it is on the desktop. And so if you get ACP or CCD Navigator or any of the other tools like that, they only run on Windows, and they're using the Visual Basic. Basically, I call it the Visual Basic front end for automating the Sky. But we have a scripting interface that works over sockets that will work even across machines on a network. And so those vendors are, we'd be more than happy to help them do that. Now, LTI, which I just brought up, it does have some basic automation in it. This is what I use for my automation since I don't guide. And of course, I have a Paramount, which is a little bit of an unfair advantage. But I can, anything that I search for, let's say search for M81 and search for M51, a couple of things that are out tonight. All right, so I found a couple of them. Now on my imaging run, I set up, say I want to do, 15 seconds. Let's be realistic here. Do 5 minutes, luminance. Just is already there. And I want you to do that, 12 times. So now I'm going to take 12 exposures, 5 minutes long, luminance. For my next target, my next step, I can actually change, I can actually change targets and then set that up and do some 5-minute exposures on that target. And I can also switch filters, of course, as well. Let's do another one. I'm going to slew to M51. And when I get to M51, I want to refocus. And now I'll keep it on luminance. And I need to do, I might need to do 5 seconds to get enough there for my exposures. And then I'll do another one, light. Okay, now I'll do some 5 minutes and do that 12 times. And when I'm done, shut down. And over here on the shutdown and utilities, I can tell it to park the scope at the end. And so I can actually go all night shooting multiple targets. Now, when I'm using the simulator, this is a bug, but I'm not sure how big a bug it is. When I'm using the simulator, or I guess the camera simulator, it doesn't show the dither. There's a dither control here when you're connected to a real camera, but you can do unguided dithering, and between each exposure, it'll slew just a few arc seconds over, a little bit, and then do the next one. So I can go all night long, unguided, and dither, change filters, focus, do multiple targets, and it'll do the meridian flip, and it'll go to sleep in the morning. And every time I talk to somebody about automation, this is all they're doing. The only thing I'm not doing is guiding. And again, on my soapbox, I don't think anybody should guide anyway. It's just too much. It's too much trouble most of the time. And LTI is meant to be a easy to use interface. So it's sort of like an easy to use interface is not supposed to have advanced features. Now that said, a year from now, I may be on here and going, we've added guiding to LTI and it's fantastic. It could happen, right? The name of the company is Software Bisque, not Software Richard. So, you know, and there's some pushback internally to that idea. There's also pushback from customers. And I'm like, if more people would just try it, I think they would be surprised. It's like, take those training wheels off. Really, you can do it. So yes, I'm very bold about that, and I'm very confident. But I'm also humble enough to know that I might be really wrong, and I could be eating crow a year from now, going, look at our I added guiding, and it's great. But
so when you write a script like that, is that a script you can rerun or alter or save? I mean, you basically wrote a script.
But yes, here it is. So there's a little floppy disk here, which nobody knows what that is anymore, right? But still, for some reason, it's a common icon. And okay, it's going to put it in my imaging run, and I'm just going to call this my awesome nights run. Save that. By the way, this LTI is available right now. If you're the TheSky Professional, you do not have to wait for the Fusion to do what I'm showing you right now. Hint, hint. And then, okay, fine. Close LTI. Oh, yeah, I don't have a park position. Man, blah, blah. That's what you get when you try to demo with the simulator. All right, next night, next week, next Star Party, I bring up LTI. And I actually have these on the real Fusion that I actually use for imaging. I've got a set of these. And I'll go to imaging run. Come on, click on the little button there. I'll say, oh, you know what I did? I did that completely wrong. Daggone it. It's late. This is the name of your FITS files, dum-dum. This down here, this is where you control the session. So this is where you click to save my awesome run. And then you click the folder here. Maybe we should change these. Maybe we should change these icons. I hope Peter's watching. He'll be calling me tomorrow and going, Richard, we need to change those icons, right? And so I can save it. Didn't I save that? myrun.seq. So it looks for SEQ. So open. There you go. My run, and it loads it back. So yeah, you can save and load these series right from LTI.
And this may be heresy, but can you use this to control other mounts?
Yes, of course. In fact, I think I don't know of any exceptions to mount control. Every mount that the TheSky Professional runs will control on Windows. The Fusion will also control. I can't say that about all devices, but the mounts are real simple. They're all serial, whether they're a 9-pin serial or they're USB, but there's still a serial protocol over USB. A couple of them are Ethernet, and Ethernet just works on everything, so it doesn't care what operating system it's on anyway. So we control, all mounts. If you want to buy an astrophysics mount and run it with the Fusion, have at it. You want to buy a Skywatcher mount, Ioptron, whatever mount you have. If the Sky will control it, then the Fusion will control it. Now, the list of cameras and filter wheels and that sort of thing is not as wide as it is on the desktop, but it is still pretty wide. All of the big names we have working, FLI and Starlight Express and ZWO, still working on a few gotchas with QHY. Attic just added. We have DSLR control. Both Canon and Nikon DSLR can be controlled from the Fusion. And we don't even have native Nikon control on Windows. And I'm not going to tell you exactly how I did that, although if there's any Linux guys out there, they know. But yeah, we can control Canon and Nikon DSLRs as well. What other, all the big legacy SBIG, so all the old SBIGs, the new SBIG, we do not have support for the brand like the Illuma series, but we do have support for the legacy SBIG. The nice thing about a lot of devices is they're not that hard to talk to over USB or over serial, and a lot of the devices have nice, well documented SDKs. And they have, SDK, by the way, stands for Software Development Kit. So software developers like us, we get a kit so that we can build support for that device. A lot of vendors have cross-platform kits because, again, especially the camera vendors, they do a lot of business in the life sciences and other markets other than astronomy. And so they already have Linux. And then if it already works on Linux, it's usually pretty easy to get on Mac. Somebody always says, why don't you just use ASCOM? And I'm just like, there's nothing wrong with ASCOM, but ASCOM is tied to Windows. And we run on Windows, Mac, Linux, and iOS. We run on, every platform that matters. Well, that was terrible. Android also matters. We don't have a native Android app, but you can get to the Fusion. I think this is the future. There's not going to be anything running on your device. It's just all going to be running on the Fusion or on your Eagle, if you prefer the Windows route on that side, or Raspbian for a Raspberry Pi sort of thing. Everything's going to be running on that device, and you're just going to use your laptop or mobile device to access it from there. And the only thing you're going to need big, powerful computers for is all that Pixel Sight and Astro Pixel processing and Deep Sky Stacker stuff that you like to do.
Can I ask a question, Richard?
No.
Okay, I won't then.
Obviously, yes, Terry.
What about drivers for legacy equipment? Stuff that's fairly old, that's not in your listing, like for focuser and rotators.
Well, some which ones? We have a lot of focusers. Arcos. Oh, yeah, those aren't even supported by the vendor anymore. So,
correct.
Yeah, those probably are not going to come along. Although I know a third party that's working on that, so that could happen. But I can't. We're not actively working on it.
Okay.
Same thing for like old Apogee cameras, that sort of thing. But
and dome support.
We actually have a large number of dome plugins that work on the Fusion, and for reasons above my pay grade, we're not shipping dome plugin support with Fusion for the price, but you will be able to buy dome support for Fusion if you want it. And
Okay.
there's quite a number. Guy named Rudolph, if you know, never mind. There's a third party that has actually done a whole bunch of these dome plugins for us. Not really for us, but yeah, I'm gonna stick my foot in my mouth. That's coming, but you will have to pay extra for that. So we're not giving that away with the base package, but you'll be able to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Next.
Molly, was there anything more we missed?
I was only kidding when I told Terry no. Don't anybody feel like they can't answer the question.
Oh, he pays no attention. Don't worry.
Yeah. We had a good chat till like long after midnight last time.
I think that was
Somebody
mainly it. Yeah.
you-
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Molly.
I was just saying that that's about all that I saw, but go ahead, Eric.
Somebody asked what happens when you if you corrupt your SD card, and I suppose you replace it, right?
Yeah, it's not that hard to open up and replace it. In fact, if you want to change the Anderson power poles from 12 volts to 5 volts, you actually have to go inside and change a jumper to do that. Actually, that's another accessory we're shipping. Is we're going to give you a little volt tester to stick on your Anderson power poles, because we don't want you to accidentally stick a 5-volt device into a 12-volt thing, which will happen on a regular basis. So we're making a little thing that you can just stick in there and it'll tell you if it's 12 volts or not, to help prevent that. But yeah, if you get a corrupted image, I'm not sure what our replacement policy is going to be, but it's not brain surgery to open it up. In fact, I'm sure there's going to be people who are going to open it up and be posting pictures on the internet as soon as they start shipping in volume anyway. People will be reverse engineering it. Remember, there's a fine line between tech support and reverse engineering. We're not going to answer every question about how it works.
Richard, there were a few questions that I'm not sure that have been settled. There have been people volunteering the answers, but we've got somebody who actually knows this stuff. So why don't we ask you? Andy wanted to know, to make a long story short, how much actual space is there on the various storage inside the Fusion for the image files? The
It's
128, 256?
no, yeah, the 256. There's quite a bit of free space. There's a number, and I've seen it. It's 200 and something if you add it all together.
Okay.
The 128 gig is not. It does, the Sky and the operating system does not take up much room. I think there's like about 100 gig on that, and that's the really fast access. And also, I don't know if you can see. There's a little SD Samsung SD card. I mean, this is external drive. It's got Velcro on this back. You know why? Because I Velcro it to the top of my little computer, and a lot of times I'll just save the images right on this. And in the morning, I go out and pop it off and bring it up to my image processing computer.
Okay, DM Cali wanted to know if it's possible to somehow automatically download the image every time the Fusion gets it. Your desktop computer inside the house can get it.
Well, of course, there's a way to do it. How do I do it? It's not like a built-in way to do it.
Okay.
Actually, yes. Just simply on your computer in the house, you would map the network drive. And so you would have a folder on your desktop. It's not the physical computer, but inside that folder is all the files. If you want to physically copy it to your computer, there's utilities that'll watch that folder and copy files as they show up. Technically, we can probably set up a reverse file share so that the Sky Fusion saves to a network drive instead of to a local drive, and then it would be, right on that device as well. Probably sounds like something we should put in a FAQ or something.
The Guillermo was asking several questions about putting other programs on the Fusion. Can one put other programs into the Fusion?
If it requires an administrator permission, no.
Okay.
So yeah,
and certainly ASCOM wouldn't work because there's no Windows there to talk to ASCOM.
yeah, we don't have to go out of our way to make ASCOM not work. That's just not a non-starter on Windows. I mean Linux.
And PhD 2, for instance, works with Linux. Can you install PhD 2 in there?
I haven't tried that. The Sky does. We ship you with a very good guiding program.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think in order for PhD to talk to the SkyX, you have to use an ASCOM driver. So I don't know if it can talk to it via Indy. I don't have a Linux machine to test it on, but the SkyX has a guider.
Yeah, the SkyX does guiding. So.
Okay. It's hard to keep track of everybody over here. I hope we got everybody's question in, and it sounds like we're getting near winding up. So if you've got any other questions, where would we go on Software Bisque website to find out more about this? What should we do here?
Well, you can email me if you want, richard@bisque.com. And then I think I'm still staring at my screen. I believe we've got a Fusion page somewhere. Let's see how. Oh, look, there's the Fusion right on the home page. So there you go. We got a full specification sheet. Lots of stuff there if you wanna go through all of that.
There's one more question.
That picture looks familiar.
There's one more question on remote access. So you showed how to access it from within your home network, for example. Can you SSH into it to download files remotely?
Not with SSH because we don't give you the system password.
Or if you do or something.
Yeah, the network share is the preferred way to do it. Set up the network share and grab it that way. I'm not going to rule out SSH though. Before I say yes or no, let me think about that and confer with one of my colleagues about that. Because yeah, SSH is a really nice way to transfer files, and a lot of people are used to it. There are people who like to do that.
Yeah, or something of that ilk, so that you can download files and control it when you're on a different network than the network that your device is on.
Yeah, if you can get to it on the network, I mean, if you can get to it across the network, you can make a network share, or get to it via a browser to do stuff with it.
I guess if you're setting it up maybe in a remote location or something like that, is maybe what this person is thinking about.
Right. Okay. Yeah. At a remote location, you need to make sure you have a static address somewhere so that you can get into it.
Yeah. So you could access it with a static address.
Yeah. That's more of an advanced feature, I guess, sort of thing. The main market for this is people who are imaging,
right,
in their home. You can certainly do it in an observatory, but you're going to need to be a Linux administrator if you want to start tweaking those sorts of things. And you should not probably talk to us about that individually if you want to, enterprise license sort of thing.
Right. Okay.
Richard, we got a question about rsync as a way of synchronizing the images. Is that possible?
rsync. I'm not familiar with that software. I gotta admit.
It's a daemon that you can run on under Unix. Yeah, and you can use it for synchronizing data repositories. You could also use it to sync a NAS to a NAS.
Okay. Probably. You know what? I need to make a note, and that seems like a reasonable thing. We use Samba for the networking, so anybody can talk to a Samba share. This might be something we should go ahead and install for you.
That would slot in there quite nicely. I use that for managing NAS.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you know anything about the lead time before these things will be shipping?
No, no. We had planned to ship. There's nobody at Software Bisque who thought we still would not have shipped at this point in time. But a lot of stuff has happened, and a lot of businesses have been impacted, and we are not immune. There's the normal thing, like this doesn't work as well as we thought it would. We need to readdress this before we release it. And then there's the we can't get parts for 3 months sort of problems. And then there's the nobody's allowed to come into the shop and do anything types of problems. So all of that has added up, and we'd have been late anyway, but we'd have been shipped. We'd have been out by now. I think there is a small production run that may go out before the end of this month, and those are all already accounted for. And I don't know. I don't have any influence nor any real-time information on where we are on the next production run. That would be more substantial. To get some more of them out. So engineer, not marketing rep.
Okay, I think we're getting real close to wrap up here. And I want to thank Richard again for being Mr. Spike. I know we were like over 100 for a good portion of the evening. So thank you very much, Richard, for your excellent presentation. You do a good job all the time. So I'm really glad you can come.
I'm glad there's a lot of interest in the product. Yeah, that's good. Good to know.
I want to remind everybody that we need subscribers. If you haven't yet subscribed, hit the subscribe button right now on the YouTube channel, whether you're watching live or you're watching tomorrow or the next week sometime. If you are not yet a subscriber, please subscribe. We want to thank also the people who generously donated tonight. It does cost money to put this thing on. Thank you very much for doing that. We really appreciate it. We do need presenters. We've got about the next 4 or 5 weeks scheduled, and then after that, we are looking for presenters right now. Again, it's the spirit and the enthusiasm and some competence, of course, but get on here. I mean, this is your club. Look at all the comments we've had over there. We've got a lot of good people talking to each other. We've got somebody out there who's got to know how to make a power box out of a couple of Vigo batteries and things like that. So let's hear from you. You know, get on the Astro Imaging channel, contact us, and say that you'd like to do that presentation. We really would appreciate that kind of stuff. Finally, I just want to invite you for next week. Dale Gant will be here. He's got a really fantastic mount, the RST 135. It's got a name and a number and all of this stuff, but mostly it's that one that doesn't have any weights. And it's like really small and you can carry it really easily and everything else like that. Be back here next week. And I think we're ready to go. So Molly, you're in charge now. Take us out.
All right, I will play our little outro, which I fixed this time.